Hey guys, welcome back. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about guide pins. Okay, so this one in particular is off of my rear caliper on the 2007 Audi S8. All right, I just wanted to show you how you go about taking it out, cleaning it, inspecting it, making sure that it's still in good working order. Okay, what I did was I bought a set of used caliper off of eBay. I sanded it down, put a new coat of paint on it just to make it look a little bit more refreshed. Okay, and in the process, what you want to do is you want to make sure that these guide pins are properly cleaned as well as lubricated, so then that way they are working in the optimal capabilities. All right, so the role of your guide pins, which sit inside this caliper mounting bracket right here, okay, is to allow even movement forward and backwards, okay, or side by side, to allow the braking surface of the pads to contact the rotor in a nice linear fashion. Okay, so let's say one of your guide pins, whether it's the top or the bottom, is not moving as smoothly as it should. You'll notice uneven brake wear. Okay, so that's why it's super important, whenever you're doing your brakes, don't just slap pads onto it and then call it a day. That might be really quick to do, but it's going to come back and haunt you later. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to do it appropriately, which is to remove the guide pins, and then that way you can clean, inspect, and just make sure that it's properly greased, so then that way, like I said, your pads are making even contact with the rotors. All right, so what you'll notice is in my car, this is a 13mm bolt right here, and then the guide pin is right behind the caliper mounting hole. Okay, and is a rubber boot, and like I said, it slides in this little opening of the bracket. Okay, this is a size 17 in my car. All right, your car might be different, but what you're gonna need is a really thin wall 17mm wrench. And even with this is the thinnest one that I have. It's making contact with the body. Okay, let's see if I can get it good. It's making contact with the body of the caliper, so it's not allowing me to really hold this guide pin as I remove the bolt. Okay, so a couple of things that you can do. Of course, you can just use an adjustable wrench, and as you can tell, this is pretty thin walled, so this is going to fit nicely behind the caliper mounting holes. All right, like such. I've had this now for over close to a decade because my dad had it in his toolbox and he doesn't really use it anymore, so I kind of swiped it off of him. I don't know what this side is for, but I haven't used that side yet, so if you guys know what this thing is called, let me know. Okay, but on the other end, it's just a regular adjustable wrench, but I really like it because, as you can tell here, it's super thin. All right, so this allows me to really get kind of into the nooks and crannies of things just like that. All right, so we're just going to hold that there, and then I'll use my 13mm to take off this bolt right here. Okay, so like I said, for you it might be different. It might be 14, 15, but don't forget lefty loosey, righty tighty. Of course, you're just going to hold this guide pin tight. Once you have it broken free, you can do it by hand. And that's all it is, guys. See, so it's just a bolt that threads into the guide pin like such, just like that. Okay, as you can tell with this guide pin, it is not naturally silver like this. I took it off the caliper, and then I just cleaned it off. Okay, so the way that you remove this now, you can take the caliper assembly off of the bracket. Okay, put that to the side, and now we can kind of see what we're working with, right? So let me get it better positioned for the camera for you, and awesome, perfect. So guide pins, rubber boots to protect and keep our out contaminants and keep the grease inside this little opening. Okay, so all you're going to do now is just pull this off. Okay, and as you can tell, there's really no grease in it left because I've already cleaned the interior of these openings. All right, but from here, what you want to do now is just remove the rubber boot. Okay, and then clean off your guide pins. All right, and what you'll notice right away is, of course, let me zoom out a little bit, that way you guys get it in clear. It is not perfectly concentric. All right, it's not round. It actually has these 1, 2, 3. All right, on mine it has 3 bevels. Okay, so imagine these round guides going into these round holes. Okay, now don't forget there's going to be some grease in here, right? So if it was perfectly round, as well as the hole of itself here was round, there would be very little space for the grease to move around. Okay, so that's why the pins have these little kind of chambers. Like I said, it's not perfectly round, so if you take this out and it feels notchy on certain sides, don't worry about it. That's exactly how it was made, because like I said, you're going to need to imagine that there's going to be grease inside this opening where this guide pin is going to need to be able to slide back and forth. Okay, so we take this out and then we're just going to clean it off, and then what you're inspecting for is any kind of gouges, any rust or anything like that. If there is rust, sandpaper, a soft wire brush just to kind of take off and knock off any of the rust that you see on here. Okay, and that's all you really want to do, and just run your finger over it just to make sure that it feels smooth to the touch. Okay, if you need a new one, definitely now is the time to go and purchase a new guide pins before you start rebuilding anything like that. All right, so I'll put this aside for now. We're going to clean the inside of this, okay, and I've already done so already, but what you can do is just take these guide pins, stick them back into the hole, kind of pry it back out. You'll notice there'll be grease on the body of it, and you can just kind of keep wiping it off until it comes clean. Or if you have a small screwdriver, okay, you can wrap this with some really nice paper or even a cloth. Okay, the thinner the better, because like I said, you're going to need to really be able to go down pretty deep into the hole, and you can just kind of twist just to clean everything out, and then you'll be able to pull out more of that grease. Okay, so once you have the opening of this bracket cleaned, next thing you're going to be cleaning is these rubber boots. Okay, so first thing is, of course, super easy to do, which is just a visual inspection. All right, so let me make sure I'm in the center. There we go. So you just want to make sure that you do a visual inspection. Is there any rips? Is there any holes or anything like that? Right, so if everything looks good, fantastic, we can reuse this item. Okay, and what you want to do now is get rid of all of the old grease that's in here. Okay, here's a little trick for you. All right, so you just take your cloth, you tuck it in, all right, pull it through. Okay, and now from here you're just gonna twist. All right, just twist and pull it back down some more, twist, and all you're doing is, like I said, trying to get all of the old dirty grease that's in there out of there as much as you can. Okay, you can't really see it on the camera, but it's spotless right now, right? So like you can tell, it's super clean, right? That's what you want. You don't want any of the old grease that's in there. Okay, and then once you're ready, there is a little bit of a trick. Some people put too much grease. I've seen people take this is what I'm using. I've been using it for the last 10 years since I've owned the driving school, and believe it or not, this is the original tube that I bought, because you don't need a lot. Okay, I've seen people literally jam grease into this opening like such. All right, you don't want to do that. Okay, because like I said, you have to keep in mind of the fact that there should be enough room for the guide pins to move back and forth within this chamber. All right, so all you're gonna do is just a little bit. Okay, and I know your grandmother told you the same thing that she told me. All right, a little bit goes a long way. Okay, so we're just gonna put a little bit of it on it. Okay, so not a lot, just a little bit. Okay, so I can get it on camera for you. There we go. Okay. So just gonna put a little bit of it. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, the grease on this is actually looking really, really rough right now. Okay, so it used to be more of a gel-like consistency, And like I said, it's been so old that, but it's been working okay for me. So so if it looks thick, I promise you it's not. All right. All right. Let's put this away. Okay. All right. And I'm just gonna put it back into the opening. As you can tell, it's gonna just, gravity is gonna suck it in there, and that's it. Okay. So now as you pull it out, you'll be able to feel some resistance there. Okay. See that? Like you actually have to use some force to get it back out. Okay. So that's something that you want to look for. So if that isn't happening, that just means that there is an opening somewhere, meaning either your guide pins have been warped or gouged in a way where it's allowing air to come out or air to go in. Okay. And you don't want that. You see this? That's what you want. You want it to be nice and tight. Okay. All right, and you just want to wipe off any excess grease that you have. Okay, because like I said, you don't need a lot. You just want to have a little bit of lubrication on that surface. Okay, and then from there, you just take your rubber boot. All right, so again, slide this bad boy in there, and then you'll notice right here. Okay, these, you want it to snap onto the collar of the guide pins. All right, so you're just gonna push down while you're pushing up the rubber boot, and there you have it. Okay, so now, like I said, imagine if you put too much grease in here. Okay, the grease is going to travel in this opening and in the body of it, and it's going to come up and it's going to sit inside this rubber boot, which is going to push your guide pins outward like such. Okay, and I know it seems only millimeters, but the problem is you have to realize that's what we're working with when we're doing pads, right? So your pads aren't sitting inches off of the rotors, they're sitting millimeters off the rotors. Okay, so that's why it's super important not to put too much grease. Okay, and if you find it super difficult to put the caliper on top of your pads and rotors, that just means that you have too much grease on these guide pins. All right, so I'm just going to do the other side. And like I said, same thing, just enough to kind of get the surface greased up. Okay, don't put a glob of it or anything like that. Don't go crazy. Guys, between you and I think it's time for me to get a new tube of grease here, because it's looking a little ratchet. Okay, so like I said, we're just going to allow it to sit by itself, and like I said, gravity's going to pull that in. There you go, you have it. Same thing, do the same test. Okay, try to pull it out. You should feel a little bit of a suction. Okay, and then it breaks free, which is great. That's what you want. That means that there is a nice surface tension between the guide pins and the opening of the bracket in itself. Okay, so same thing. See this? I mean, I'm using just enough force to try to pull this up, okay? And it should snap back into position like that. I mean, if you pull it enough with enough force, you see that? It's actually moving the caliper, okay? So that's a good sign, all right? That's what you want. And then same thing here, okay? We'll take it out, and then we're just gonna wipe off any excess grease that's on the bracket in itself. We'll put the boot go, which should snap in place like such. All right, slide your guide pin back in and push down, and there you have it. Okay, so like I said, this should be almost collapse as much as possible, because like I said, this is going to give you the best clearance to be able to stick your caliper back over the pads and rotor. All right, once you have that all set up, like I said, you're now ready to go, and your caliper will now slide evenly and freely as you apply your brakes. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. If you guys have any questions, comments, or anything like that, please let me know.